Well, welcome everybody to this panel for our WLA Coachathon session. And how exciting is this? We're raising tons and tons of cash. And all I'm going to say all through this session is keep donating. Keep donating, keep donating. Hayden's going to put the link in there. But on a serious note, we are going to have a really interesting discussion and debate. Love to have any questions and perspectives from people who are listening today as well. And I would be very honoured to introduce our panel in shortly and to tell you what we're actually going to cover today. And yeah, really pleased. It was a tough choice actually, because there's so many great exec coaches, but I'm delighted to have Jeffrey, Marina and Andrew. We have a global panel here because each of them are in from different parts of the world. And we are going to be talking about transformational leadership. We're going to be talking about the impact of COVID on leadership, on how we need to rethink what we do as leaders. We're going to be looking at the impact of virtual working and how do we engage our teams and how do we show up, and as leaders, again, how do we bring our resilience to the fore? That and more, I am sure. I have a horrible feeling we will talk all day if we can, but I will endeavour to run this for around about 40 to 45 minutes. So hopefully that gives you a perspective. But let me tell you a little bit about each of our wonderful panellists first of all. And I'm going to Jeffrey first because Jeffrey needs a big woohoo. If we were in a room together, we would woohoo him because Jeffrey's calling us from Canada and it is 5 in the morning for Jeffrey. So I haven't asked him what time he got up, but I really appreciate, Jeffrey, you being here today. And let me just tell people a little bit about you. You are a board certified executive leadership and business coach, and your passion is helping CEOs and business leaders across the world to thrive and create thriving organizations. A nice word that, isn't it, actually? You are a specialist in emotional intelligence, in strategic design and in human performance. You hold an MBA in management consulting and an MED in educational counselling, and is also a member of the Canadian Association of Management Consultants and the International Coaching Federation, and lives in Ottawa. So welcome, Jeffrey. Fab to have you here.
Thank you, Sandra. It's great to be here.
Brilliant. All right, next up on my little panel is Marina. So let me turn to Marina, who is calling us from Dubai. Marina is a master certified coach and a mentor coach with 15 years of experience in international experience, I should say, in international management, in business management. There's all these words, all those corporate folk, okay? There's all these things we have to trip off the tongue. Talent development and executive education. You've also been involved in a large global diversity program for a multinational company in basically everywhere around the world. Marina's just our global kind of guru, I tell you. She's been here, there and everywhere, but she knows a lot about inclusive diversity. She also co-founded Pinnacle Global and has a real deep need, like I do, to help people with their purpose and bring the best of themselves to what they do. And I know that you're super passionate about the whole systemic aspect of leadership, which we will be exploring. So welcome to Marina. Yeah, lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you also for putting together this wonderful and purposeful initiative together with Microloan Foundation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And then we turn to Andrew, who's based in the UK and is also a very experienced and successful coach, having been involved in coaching leaders for over 20 years as well, and has been involved in leading international pharma communications businesses and teams, and worked quite extensively in the FTSE 100, helping people navigate change, making connections, meaningful action like that. And people find Andrew, we'll see if this is true today, appreciative, kind, challenging, honest, and creative. What a nice load of words to describe you, Andrew. Also accredited by International Coaching Federation, serving senior clients across many industry sectors. And I know you've got a real interest in social and entrepreneurs as well, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
So very warm welcome to you. And actually, I know everybody really wants to talk about Andrew's guitar, but we're not doing that. That's not what we're here to do. Yeah, welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Sandra. It's lovely to be here. I'll try to be all of those things in half an hour, but I can't promise.
We will do our best. We will do our best. All right, I thought what we're going to do by way of a panel, I know sometimes it can be a little bit weird, isn't it, as you kind of pass the mic along to everybody and back again. And what we intend to do is just kind of spotlight each coach in turn on a different topic. But that doesn't mean we're not going to all speak. We will all have a perspective on the various topics. But what I did want to do was effectively to pass the mic along on the very first question, because I'm genuinely interested in what impact you think COVID has had on the leaders, or the pandemic perhaps, on the leaders that you serve and the communities that you're in. And let's just get a sense check of what you see as happening today. And I don't mind which of you goes first, but I would like to hear from each of you on that question. So any volunteers?
I'm happy to go first. Well, it's a big question, and you mentioned at the beginning when you introduced the panel also the whole space of transformational leadership. So I've been thinking a lot about that actually, and particularly as you said, as 2020 has been a year of disruption and change, leading so many of us to take time to deeply reflect. And I see this reflection raised important and challenging questions that come up in my conversations with clients, also with my friends and colleagues. And those questions such as, what is my real purpose? What is really important to me? And how can I have more of an impact and leave a legacy? So these are big questions, and I very often ask myself the same. And we've been talking a lot about transformational leadership for a long time. So not only this year, in many different contexts, in business, in political, in cultural, in learning. And we debate whether we need some different new style or model of leadership. Why? Because we somehow want to see that our world is becoming a better place. However, when I look at leadership theory, even practice, developing transformational leader is still shaped pretty much around one person or a leader that can inspire positive change in those who follow and create a culture where every team member can thrive. And then in leadership development and coaching circles, we've been talking a lot about, so what do we do? How do we unlock that leadership potential? How do we support leaders to role model those positive behaviors? And I must say, I find this definition very narrow, because with this thinking about transformational leadership, we still focus on individual leader, how to empower him or her to unlock own potential and have a style that will support team or organizational development. And that is great. I think that's super important. However, not sufficient to develop leadership that this world desperately needs. And this is leadership approach that considers systems as a whole with all its complexity and interconnected parts. And what I mean by that, I mean leadership built around the principle of creating economic value in a way that also creates value for society by addressing its needs and challenges. So I'm not talking here about philanthropy or corporate social responsibility or even sustainability, which is very close to my heart, and it is also in core of leadership development programs I work on. I'm talking about transformational leaders able to embrace this new thinking and build around shared value and create some kind of movement around their vision that will result in making profits, but also doing good for people, for communities, and also look after our environment. So on one hand, I'm aware of the planetary destruction, and I'm not happy about it at all. But on the other hand, I'm hopeful that with this systemic transformational leadership and business model, we can make a shared value and we can make a positive difference. We can create a purposeful legacy. And I see more and more businesses waking up, startups as well, activists achieving what has never been achieved before. So us today here, just being in business, in leadership development, in NGOs, we can all play a role. So we should not underestimate the potential we have to create this movement of awakening that can transform us, that can transform others. And Sandra, this whole initiative and knowledge event today I think it's a great demonstration that is showing us new level of collaboration and proving that we are all leaders, that we can make a meaningful and purposeful impact. So in conclusion, and I'll stop there, yeah, so to answer your question, what I see happening is that we somehow move from that heroic individual leadership style, and it's more now about collaboration, about inclusive visionary leaders. And what I'm also seeing is that more and more people are awakening. And also this is the way how we need to see ourselves with the potential and transformational power. So maybe a long answer to your question, but yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, and I would like to hear Andrew and Jeffrey's perspective on what they're seeing as well. Would you say that there's been more people waking up to this whole who am I as a leader, what am I here to do because of the pandemic? Or did you see this shift starting to happen? Because I know you do work globally. Was this kind of bubbling already, or is it just really come to the fore now? Or are people, you know, we're moving away from that? Is it just perhaps a proportion of leaders who are thinking that way?
Well,
Jeffrey, would you like to?
yeah, it's I think there's following what Marina said, which it really resonates with what I've seen as well and experienced. I think right now during COVID, what I've seen is that there is that sense of I need to do something, and that I want to. There's something out there. That moment where that point of reflection for the individual or for organization becomes where are we today and where do we really want to be? And so it's taking that step backwards to reassess, what we're doing, how we're doing it. And also I think with COVID, the sense of contribution to the greater good, I think also became more heightened as many people in different parts of either locally or within teams or within organizations, seeing that people who struggle at individual level, at group level, or even at corporate organizational level, and the willingness for people to come in and say, how can we're all in this together. How do we walk through this, and how do we build the community and support in order for all of us to be able to manage the complexities and the challenges that we all have faced really on a global level as well. And I think that it's been some people I've talked to have referred to it more of it's our moment of our coming of age moment in the sense of where do we want to take ourselves in the next century? It's a new era for the world and how that's shaping. And I think this has been a ignition to start that conversation and to take stock of what we have, what has been done, and also to correct some of the mistakes that have been seen in order to look at further improvement going forward.
Yeah, you've given me another question there, Jeffrey, actually, which I'll come to in a second. But let's hear from Andrew. What's your view in terms of what you're seeing in the UK and beyond?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of what Marina and Jeffrey have said resonates. I like this idea of a moment of reflection. The decline of the heroic leader and the rise of a leader that makes space for people to step in and follow a vision and a purpose. That's something that I think it has been happening, and what I've noticed over the last year, because I think it goes back to pre-COVID and into the geopolitical landscape and Black Lives Matter and Brexit, and all of that. All of these things happening at the same time creates an understanding that we're working in a very, very complex system that leaders cannot hope to navigate through strength of expertise or knowledge or solving the answers for themselves. And so what I think is, there was something that happened sort of in the middle of this year, and I don't know if the rest of the panel noticed it, but there's this very British question, how are you, to which the answer is fine, thank you, how are you? And if you give any answer that's not fine, thank you, then people are almost offended or a bit surprised. And sometime around the middle of the year, we started asking that question differently and actually wanting to hear a true answer to it. And that felt quite exciting to me, that actually people were listening differently to one another. And what I think I've seen this year is a bit of an unfreezing from where we are and an acceleration of that unfreezing so that we can move and then start to ask different questions. So the work that was ongoing with leaders to think more systemically, to create spaces that people can step into and contribute, it, I think, has been helped by all of the uncertainty that we've experienced this year. And it's reaching places and leaders that perhaps were resisting it up until now.
That's a brilliant example, actually, Andrew. And I love the how are you? It is a very British question, isn't it? And interestingly, I had a great conversation with a guy who'd suffered from a lot of mental health, quite a successful business person. And he said that exactly that point you made, that people would say, how are you? And not interested in the answer, he said. And it was only the people who said, how are you twice? No, how are you? That he felt he could kind of share. And he said that's something he's learned to really, that question can really help people feel listened to. So thank you. That's a great example. And what it got me thinking about was there is this sort of shift in leadership, and I love this phrase, the move away from the heroic and into actually what matters for the whole. And it got me thinking about the mistakes leaders have been making this year, and maybe we could explore a little bit of that. But what I'd like to do, I do have that question in mind, but I'm keen to know about the sort of shift in this virtual world that we're living in, and how as leaders, do we do this transformational stuff whilst we've got a load of stuff to get through day in, day out? And how do we engage our teams and raise performance and do it all through this weird interface, isn't it? And that is exhausting when we're on it all day long. So I know, Jeffrey, you've got a particular interest in this. So let me start by asking you about what is going on around this virtual world, and maybe you could share some mistakes you've seen, if you have seen any, that leaders make, such as not showing up. Well, I don't know, but you'll share some of your perspectives. And again, if the others would like to contribute, great. But perhaps we can explore that, Jeffrey.
Absolutely, thank you. I think one of the first one that I saw just at the outset was the whole idea behind I think the difference between working virtually and working from home, and the concept of working remotely, and how the idea that if you worked to say that you were working from home was seen as more of a negative. So almost like I'm playing hooky from work by working at home. And if you say I'm working remotely, then there seemed to be a little more credibility that you were actually in the office and you were working and you're being productive. And with the series of lockdowns and a number of people being, many of us being restricted to the home, that mentality changed, and that even policies, seeing companies and organizations whose policies had forbade people from working from home unless there had to be a really substantial reason, all of a sudden recognized that their employees or teams can actually be productive and be responsive and be responsible. And there's a certain level of, I think there's a certain level of trust that started to build as they saw how people, that they were still able to function and move forward and contribute. And I think that's I think going forward, the idea behind, when you say working from home, you don't have to cringe or put your head down feeling that this is guilty. I'm guilty of being at home, and I've seen it with clients, and I've talked with other, it's just even in my own family, where they felt very conscious of doing that. And I think that going forward, it becomes a question of how do we support that? How do leaders in this environment become more flexible? And because part of working in this environment, it's one thing to work virtually, but there's also, when the outside your environment is still restricted, there is still that sense of feeling honed in, or feeling feeling shut in. regardless of where you can take a walk outside. You still don't have the spontaneity or the variety of where you could go. So although there was some, on one hand, it was working from home, provides some flexibility, it provides some creativity as well. It was also still that requirement for leaders to, to show up, to be present, to engage their teams, and to establish different rules of engagement and different rules of how people can contribute and collaborate, and especially how do you stay in touch with everyone on the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And do you know what struck me about it? It reminded me, when email first came in and we were going to gain all these hours, weren't we? Because we didn't have to deal with paper anymore. And suddenly we would be free. And hey presto, we weren't free. We started using email all the time for everything, and our admin changed basically. And I see the same with this. Those are people, I'm sure many people listening in are commuters. And many might have spent an hour, hour and a half each way a day. Now that's suddenly gone, not for everybody. Some people are still in offices, but a lot of people, they've gained 2 or 3 hours a day. And yet we still seem to be busy and overwhelmed, and we've filled it with more meetings. What is that? What is that human capacity that we have to be on it all the time and miraculously find more time to do even more, and then worrying why our health and well-being is not right, and we're lacking resilience, and we're not sleeping properly, and we're not engaging with people in the right way because we're not showing up in the right way. Just fascinates me, that actually. So yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. What about, do either of you, Andrew or Marina, have a perspective on the whole remote working rather than working from home? I like that distinction.
And I think, again, it's about the way how we connect, how you describe, Sandra, how we feel, so within ourselves, and what matters, and how much of social pressure I have to present myself in a certain way. But it's also going back to that human side, as Jeffrey explained, how you then engage with others, and how you really find that space to support others and build that trust in completely new context. So again, it goes beyond one person, one individual. It goes into something completely different, and the leadership space, which would be more about how do we use this as an opportunity? How do we then really open up and support each other? How, when we ask questions, as Andrew said, we actually want to know the answer, and how we spot that opportunity in completely different environment where we don't sit in the office together anymore. So again, I see the whole systems perspective in what we are talking about, because it's about how you connect people to work on a common cause, how you also yourself feel connected and engaged, which is a really exciting space when you look from that perspective, that it can open up doors for also us being creative and innovative.
Yeah, for sure. And I know the panel later today are going to explore that actually in one way the whole remote working has been quite beneficial for women and working women, because of the ability to juggle the home lives in a much more productive way, and getting rid of some of the guilt. So I think that's a whole other area to explore, isn't it? So yeah, you're right. Andrew, any perspectives from yourself?
Yeah, just a quick thought which comes to mind as I listen to you all. You're right that we've lost a lot of the what I might call serendipity in the way that we communicate and connect. So, overhearing conversations. Actually, we pick up on an awful lot of an organization's culture and what isn't acceptable, just by being in it. By swimming in it. I've got a couple of people in my network who started new jobs after lockdown, so they've started virtually and have never been into an office. And if you think about what's lost to those people that would normally be in an induction, really simple questions like what language is acceptable, and how do decisions really get made here, and what is the theatre or the drama or the shadow of this organization. They're not getting that in the way that they used to, and so there's an invitation and a requirement to somehow build that back in, and to build serendipity or liminal space into how people work together. And I don't think the answer is virtual pub quizzes. I think we tried that and it was great for a time, but we've probably done with those now. But thinking about human connection, I think, is really important.
Key. You just reminded me of a story, actually. I only heard yesterday of it's funny you should say that about the virtual pub quizzes, because this individual said to me that because they haven't got this Monday morning, you know, when you go in, don't you, after the weekend and you chat about the weekend and while you're making a brew, and that's an important part of the culture of organisations. What happens when we click on, half our folk don't have their cameras on and we're all, putting our pyjamas and all of that crap. But this person said that what they booked in on a Monday morning, don't ask me what time, they do a 15-minute, oh gosh, what's the show called on a Saturday night? The celebrity dancing, what's it called in the UK? Strictly. Completely. I was thinking about I'm a Celebrity, and they do a Strictly catch up for 15 minutes. So bring a brew, and that's all they talk about. And I just thought, well, that's a really lovely. That's just a simple idea of what you were saying there, Andrew. Now that may or may not work for everybody, but just that sense of how do we because cultures are formed by the conversations we have around the cooler and around the desks, and not just how we show up in meetings, because we can be so task focused in those meetings we forget the leadership piece, which is about engaging and connecting and collaborating, and for me bringing more of that feminine energy as well as the masculine energy, and we really need to see the combination of the two coming together. But yeah, I thought that was great as a top tip, actually. Have any of you seen anything else that works, do you think? So on a practical basis, anything that you've seen leaders do that seems to have changed the dial or helped employees kind of get through this program?
Yeah, so soft starts to some meetings I think are really helpful. Like you say, we'll start at 10, but the agenda kicks in at 10 past 10.
Yeah, nice.
So actually, if you're needing some human connection, then let's do that. I think things like people are setting up gossip channels in Teams and Slack and the tools that they're using just to share human connection. I know a lot of organisations do have scheduled team time without an agenda, on a sort of a Friday afternoon for half an hour that is not obligatory and not for making decisions, but just for connecting.
Yeah, I like that. Great, lovely. Yeah, I know one client who may be listening who does Friday Fizz, which is quite nice. Yeah, not in the morning, I hasten to add. Anything, Jeffrey and Marina, on that you've seen works? It's nice for people to take some tips away, isn't it?
What I seen actually as a positive thing is that companies or teams invested a bit more time now to understand each other's differences and preferences. Because what you described, Sandra, it is a style or preference maybe of a certain group of people, but it might not work for everyone, as I might not enjoy taking part in a quiz. And those companies, maybe before teams, they've done different psychometrics or leadership tools, and they try to embed that. But now suddenly they have opportunity to live those principles. So I've seen some great stories, just even with teams, finding time to explore what is it that matters to you, what is your preference, and how our different styles can be beneficial to everyone. So how do we really build a strong team built on trust? So that is something that probably sounds so simple, and it shouldn't be difficult, but it gives amazing results.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
And building on what Andrew and Marina have said, I think one of the areas I've seen is that playing the role of shared leadership, where it isn't always incumbent upon the team leader or or whoever is leading that team to initiate the activities or take responsibility for everything. That everyone is given some whatever role and their input is also sought to provide some variety and bring in new ideas. which gets everyone involved and feel that everyone has a feeling that they're contributing to the benefit of everyone. And also it gives them a sense of a purpose as well, being a part of being able to lead at that level, wherever, regardless of what position they are in the organization.
Yeah, brilliant. What I want to do is a couple of things. Kind of time always goes so quickly, doesn't it? Andrew, I'd like to turn to you now, because I know you're really interested in the self-conscious leader and how do we show up in the right way. And I think this is a really important point around how do we handle the resilience that we need to do, and what can we do? And maybe you can share your thoughts on this with everybody. And also, if anybody has any questions, then they would like to ask the panel on anything, whether it's something you're going through at the moment or just a general observation, pop them in the chat. We'd love to help you directly if we can. But yeah, let's just perhaps explore this one, Andrew, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, pulling on what Marina and Jeffrey have both said around you're creating shared value and shared leadership. I think there's a real imperative to do this now. If you're familiar with Dave Snowden's Cynefin model, he makes a distinction between a complicated and a complex system. And complicated is landing a rocket on the moon. If you've got a big enough spreadsheet and smart enough people in the room, you can predict the outcome of that pretty accurately. Whereas complex is about raising a child. And I don't care how big your spreadsheet is, you cannot predict 18 years of somebody's life. You have to observe and adjust and involve the village and pay attention. And I don't think anyone would argue that we're not in at least a complex system in 2020. And so the invitation there is just as Jeffrey and Marina have said, that leaders need to create spaces where people can contribute and can share responsibility for solving the problems. And what that brings to my mind is two complementary ideas. One from Nancy Klein, who wrote this amazing book, Time to Think, based on her reflections from the Quaker school that she set up. And her sort of founding idea is the quality of somebody's thinking is most influenced by how they're being treated by the people around them at a given point in time. And so I think that says to me there's an invitation or an imperative for leaders here to really think about how they are treating and how they are being with the individuals in front of them. And to Marina's point, everyone has a different requirement from their leader. They have a different style. We're in different situations. We're experiencing 2020 differently. So paying attention and showing up with presence and giving ourselves as leaders the permission not to come with answers, but just to come with curiosity and care, and really, really listen to what people are saying to us. And to ask that question, how are you? How are you experiencing things? What is going on for you? I mean, it's something that forms the cornerstone of a great coaching conversation, and there's a real requirement for leaders to step into that. And it's liberating. We can let go of control. We can share things. We can give ourselves permission to be vulnerable by saying, I don't have the answers. What I do have is a desire to create the space where we can find them together. Right. So, and that overused phrase, psychological safety, which it's overused, but it's still valuable. How we create the conditions where people feel able to bring their creativity, their ideas, their vulnerability, their problems, their emotions and their feelings, and talk about them and share them and use them. And then the second quote, which goes into the personal or the conscious leader, I think comes from Otto Scharmer, and it's related, but he says the quality of an intervention is determined by the internal state of the intervener, right? So you've got Nancy Klein saying your thinking is determined by how you're being treated, and Otto Scharmer saying, and also how effective you are in an intervention is how you are feeling internally. And so that question is about taking the time as a leader to resource yourself to build your resilience by doing the things that you need to do, whether that's sleep, exercise, nutrition, focus, downtime, self-reflection, or doing the work on yourself by noticing your ego, by going deep, by working with a coach, by finding a group of people that you can talk to, by noticing what you're feeling in your body and your emotions, and then interrogating that and saying, what's going on for me? How do I learn? How do I grow? How do I turn up consciously and not subconsciously? How do I use my feelings and my emotions as useful data, but not as the whole decision-making apparatus here? And how can I let go of control and share that? So it's there's two thoughts there. First of all, how are we treating the people around us to enable them to step in and contribute and be a part of this and share? And secondly, how am I being, and what do I notice about myself that allows me to do that stepping in and showing up for people in the right way?
I love that actually. It's really powerful stuff, and it's often the simple that's the most impactful, isn't it? It is even the little things when I'm very keen to get clients to journal a lot and just notice patterns that are emerging for them. So where are they triggered, both positively and negatively, and what is about that? Because the more you can unlayer and get rid of the old, the more the new can come through and the brighter you can come through. And it just takes patience, and too often we look out there, don't we? And I believe a lot of it is we have to do the exploration within, for sure, particularly right now that we're going through.
And I've noticed that that heroic leader runs counter to that, and that phrase we've been using today gets in the way of leaders finding time for themselves and doing reflection and putting their own mask on first. To borrow that phrase.
Yeah, brilliant.
Time to let go of that stuff.
Really, really good. Any perspectives, Jeffrey or Marina, you would like to add to what Andrew has shared?
I would like to build on what Andrew said, as I very much agree that it's about also letting go. It's unlearning certain behaviors, which again has to start with a mindset shift. So as we deepen our relationship with inner self and then support others around us, perhaps I would add another perspective, and that is how we even deepen our relationship and we see ourselves as part of communities, of nature, of planetary ecosystem. And again, going back to beginning, through my work, I really seen that people, leaders, when they come to programs, they want to have that impact. That's uplifting. And this new mindset actually results in new behaviors that are more sustainable, more purposeful. So yes, as Andrew said, it's about probably asking questions. So one, what am I doing that is good for me? Then what am I doing that is good for my organization, for people around me? But also a question that is, what am I doing that is good for the world? So I think, again, the transformation happens when these questions are aligned. And these are also questions so we can ask ourselves, and then we can start asking other people these questions. And that's I believe, very powerful because it is serving a higher purpose. It is then moving from that self-awareness to almost elevating human consciousness, and that is when miracle happens.
I agree. I love that actually. That ask that question at three levels. For me, for the people I serve, but also the community beyond. And we get so trapped, don't we, in the today so often, and not pivoting upwards. That's brilliant, Marina. Thank you for sharing that. Jeffrey, anything from you?
Yep. The building on it's the what Marina and Andrew have said. It's what really spiked in me is the whole idea behind the design, a design mentality, being a design thinking mentality, where it's about being curious, and curiosity what's going on around us, what's going on within me, and just being comfortable asking those questions, and being comfortable not knowing the answers, and then from there taking the action to go and explore what could be by having the conversations, by allowing people to provide, asking people for their input, and also allowing yourself just to, as Marina said, to unlearn what you've taken in the past and have learned in the past, and be open to new ways of being as well as new ways of doing, and that allows that a little more of a balance for oneself to think, I don't have to own the whole process, nor do I need to know the whole process, that I am like everyone else. I'm learning as I'm going, and let's all learn together. And so building that community of collaboration, of like minds, of design minds who are curious about the world around them, and then everyone taking their role in diving into, seeking out some of the answers, or asking more questions to find out more about what it can be learned, and also what can be gained from it as well.
Blooming heck, awesome. I've got 3 more questions and I've only got a few minutes, so you can answer one or both, and I will stay on a little bit longer, but I appreciate people might need to go. So my 2 questions, and I can't decide which is more important. One, I'd like to ask each of you, what do you think the future entails for leadership? That was one question. And the second question, it would be if you'd be willing to share any resources, and thank you, Andrew, you just shared a couple there, but are there any particular resources that you would add, and we could always perhaps do a list and send it on afterwards if people would like that, but I think just a leadership resource from our best selection might be helpful for people. So there are 2 questions, and then I just want to very briefly talk again about the Coachathon. So who would like to answer that? I'm sure you have a perspective on one or both.
I can answer your first question in one sentence. I think what's needed is to shift from striving to be the best in the world, which is what we were talking about, our own perception of ourselves and the pressure we put, and into space of being liberated and becoming then the best for the world. And that's the question that I believe a new leadership style would need to embrace. And again, that's linking to systemic perspective. So second question was, if people are interested to read more about it, obviously there are well-known resources, but also I've written articles on that topic. So perhaps the easiest on LinkedIn, they are featured over there, and I would also love to connect with other people willing to collaborate in this space, because it is really exciting, and there are really, really powerful platforms for collaboration, which is going to be actually aligned with what we were talking about today.
Awesome, Marina, thank you very much. Yeah, and actually I will definitely do a resource page, because several of you have written articles which I think would be really helpful. So we'll add there, we'll add some books, and we'll add whatever we can for everybody. Thank you, Marina. Andrew or Jeffrey, which of you next? Oh, look, they're quiet. They're quiet.
Yeah, I think we're just going in order of my screen here. I think the word that comes to mind is transparency, and it's the one thing that I've seen throughout this time is the unveiling of the curtain, that we get to peek behind the curtain as we see the Wizard of Oz, and we get to see who the wizard really is, and we recognize that as leaders and organizations, that there's a lot of energy, and I think maybe really wasted energy in trying to keep up with a persona and keep up with an image. And this over this time, we've gone from viewing the person in front of me to being on calls where there's kids running around, there's pets walking across cameras, there's that vulnerability that provide that opportunity for that further connection and also communication. I think that's I think that's where leaders, true transformational leaders, to what Andrew and Maria have said and shared, is really just how do you encourage that connection and encourage that collaboration, and that's really being able to feel that you're trusted, that you're approachable, and that you're willing to let go. Yeah, it's really key.
Awesome. Andrew.
It's a big question, isn't it? What's coming next? The short answer at 10:45, I think it is a shift from control to clarity, and so leadership is not about having the answers, telling people what to do, giving people tasks and work and stepping forwards first. It's about creating the clarity and the conditions where people can do that together, and that requires awareness of self, awareness of other, clear purpose, clear invitations for people to step in, clear expectations around contribution, clarity on lots and lots of different levels. And it's hard work to do. It's not soft or gentle. It's difficult, but that's what's required, and I think that's the direct.
Yeah, and letting go. Gosh, yeah. It's very hard when we've got the things we know work to allow them to melt and step into that fear zone, I guess. Guys, that's brilliant. I could really honestly talk to you for all day. I guess nobody else would be sitting listening, but I would be. No, I'm teasing. There are a couple of things. One, I know that we still have slots available with coaches today. Many coaches have been inundated and found miraculously more time slots in their day. Let me check. Jeffrey, Marina, or Andrew, are you? Have you any availability? Would you like any more slots today? I don't want to say absolutely everybody get on a call with these three people if you're already full, because off the top of my head, I don't know if you are or you're not, if you've got some more availability. But if people would like to join you and have a 25 quid, that's all it is. Can you believe it? These guys charge thousands. Come on, 25 quid to have a coaching session with Jeffrey, Marina, Andrew. Are you up for that, you three? You find some time in your diary if needs be? Great. So in terms of how can people connect with you, find out more about working with you, whether it's today or beyond, or connecting with you and learning from you guys, can you all just happy if you do a quick plug about where they can find you? Well, we've gone quiet now. Come
Okay,
on.
I'll go. So I'm one quarter of a collective called H Cubed. You can find us on hcubed, hcubed.co.uk. I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn, and I'm there and active, and you should be able to find me as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's ace, Andrew. That's marvellous. Marina? Oh, no,
yes,
Jeffrey.
You go ahead.
All right. Well, in addition to LinkedIn, which is probably the easiest way to connect, there are also descriptions on some of the programs the company I co-founded work on, and that is around transformational sustainability leadership. And information is pinnacle-global.com. So that's another resource.
Brilliant, thank you. And of course, Marina's on. Everybody's on. We're all on LinkedIn, aren't we? So yeah, absolutely, we can find that. And Jeffrey, anything for you?
And as said, LinkedIn, of course, and also have a podcast that people are interested in. Just some people I've talked to, and I definitely look forward to having Marina and Andrew on that podcast in the future as well. Looking at called the Leaders Chair. It's just an opportunity to get perspectives and just some resource information on leadership at all levels.
And what's it called, your podcast, Jeffrey?
It's called the Leaders Chair.
The Leaders Chair, brilliant. And thank you very much. We'll put all of this on a handout and send it out to everybody. And I just want to say again, huge thank you. If you've enjoyed this session, please keep donating. we want to see your cash, no matter how big or small. We'd love to keep raising money for this amazing charity today. Thank you ever so much, everybody. It's been brilliant. Next session's at 12 o'clock, and that's me. And then that'll be it for me for today. I'm doing a session on career attitudes and how we need to show up and be the best we can be for successful careers. I've got loads of thoughts and insights to share. So hopefully see some of you then. Have a great rest of the day, you guys. Busy coaching. And I look forward to us reconnecting as well. I've really enjoyed that session. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thanks, everyone. That's super.